Hey folks, welcome back. This is Chris on the road in Idaho. Don't you think it's about time that South Africa's media began asking questions of the elected officials in South Africa? For instance, Parks Tau is claiming that he has a good feeling that the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act will be renewed. The problem with that is that he doesn't understand civics in the U.S. And fair enough, he is a trade minister for South Africa. Can't expect him to understand how laws are made in the United States. But this nonsense that he came back from a trip to the States and there's strong bipartisan support for renewing AGOA. Well, first off, number one, that's simply impossible. AGOA is a law. The law was a 5-year law. It's been extended over and over again with a new law being introduced. Most recently, a new bill was introduced on April 11th of 2024 by Senator Chris Coons of Delaware to renew the AGOA program with a new law. That bill has gone nowhere. It's not even debated on the floor of the Senate. It has gone nowhere in a year and a half. AGOA is dead. It ended a few hours ago. The Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, the most generous trade program ever promulgated by any state in the modern history of the world. Zero duty for your goods shipped to America. All you have to do is agree to certain governance standards to protect your people in health, education, and respect for private property, things like that. And in response, African governments have put tariffs and levies and quotas against U.S. goods and services for years, and they were never punished. But AGOA has run its course. It's over. Now, the possibility exists that something to replace AGOA could come later on. It could even be called AGOA once again, or AGOA 2. But AGOA, cannot be renewed. It's a matter of public law. And so when will South Africa's media start educating themselves and ask basic questions? These stories that are breathlessly talking about AGOA will be extended are idiotic. It shows you the ignorance and the lack of education by journalists in South Africa. You'd think they'd at least be curious. How does AGOA get renewed when it's a law and the law is expired? Well, that's impossible. What has to happen is a new bill must be introduced. It must be gone through committee in both bodies of the legislature, go on the floor and be voted on by both bodies and sent to the president for signature. That's how it works. And there's no bill currently in that state. The only bill was the one introduced in April of 2024, and it's gone nowhere from Chris Coons. So AGOA is dead. I don't care how many times Parks Tau and members of the African National Congress and South Africa's corrupt media tell you that AGOA will be renewed. It will not be. They want to extend it for a year. You can't extend it. It's illegal. If you could simply extend a law, then Trump would simply extend the budget, and we wouldn't have a government shutdown, which went into effect less than an hour ago. This is what's so disappointing about so-called journalists. When I was younger and people went to journalism school, they actually had critical minds and critical thinking. And when people told them things, they didn't always take it at face value. They dug a little deeper to get the facts and present the facts. But that's not even the effort now. Now the news in South Africa simply watches people's YouTube channels or social media accounts and turns it into stories. That's not journalism. It's not journalism, folks. It's not journalism, folks. That's ridiculous. So, again, AGOA is dead. There's nothing on the horizon to replace it, no matter how many times Parks Tau tells you that. That's false hope. Either he is being hoodwinked by people who are telling him what he wants to hear, and he's hearing what he wants to hear, or he's lying to you. One of those things is true. But what is not true is that there's no extension of AGOA, and Trump is not extending for a year. He doesn't have that authority. The law is gone. You can't extend something that doesn't exist. You have to create something new. And that's the bottom line here. But South Africa's media is obsessing about this AGOA thing, as if it's magic. But South Africa didn't fully utilize all the benefits of AGOA. They did better than most African countries and were the country that by far profited the most from duty-free access to the U.S. market, particularly for automobiles, automobile parts, and for agricultural products. But even so, there are many sectors of South Africa's economy that never leveraged AGOA to their benefit, which was foolish, mostly because they didn't know about it, or they didn't take the time to try to find out about it. But now it's a moot point because AGOA is dead and buried. I personally thought Africa Growth and Opportunity Act was a good concept, but it didn't really pan out very well. Almost every African government that was approved for participation violated the terms of AGOA from the outset. South Africa was particularly egregious of it. And in 2018, when the ANC reintroduced the expropriation without compensation bill into Parliament, in effect, you should have been kicked out of AGOA then because that bill does not respect private property rights. And now that it's signed into law, unconstitutional, immoral, never mind that. But the fact that it exists in law, that alone disqualifies South Africa from AGOA. And in the current political environment where you've got a bill in the House by Ronnie Jackson and a bill in the Senate by John Kennedy seeking to investigate the relationship between South Africa and the U.S. and potentially sanction senior leaders in the government and the ANC, I really don't think that if AGOA or a new version of AGOA comes about, that U.S. politicians are going to look the other way about South Africa violating private property rights. I don't think that you're going to be eligible in any case. So you can whistle past the cemetery all night long, Parkstown and ANC, or you can lie to the South Africans. It's one of the two. But what isn't true is there's no AGOA and it's not coming back. So either learn how our system of government works, or talk to me, or stop lying to people, because this is just nonsense. What say you, South Africa, Mzansi? Cheers.